We had a couple days here of some absolutely beautiful weather where woke up in the morning, it was about low 50s. End of the day, it was about high 60s, low 70s. It was absolutely amazing. Weather was perfect. I would not have to change clothes halfway through the day because the weather was completely different. That has again flipped. We had that little bit of a cold snap, and that has now completely flipped. So we're waking up now. I think it was like 50 this morning. It is currently 80 degrees, and that is just going to keep ramping up to waking up at like 70 and leaving at about like 90 to 100. So really looking forward to that part. We got better winters moving down here to North Carolina. But the summers are about the same, if not even a little bit more humid, just because we are now a lot closer to the ocean. So, something to deal with there. Not really much difference, but something if we could have like our spring year round, I would be very okay with that. Which basically means like California on the coast, San Diego, LA, more like San Diego. But it's really fucking expensive to live there. There have been some job postings I've seen for San Diego, obviously home of the SEALs there in Coronado. They've got job postings all the time to work with the SEALs, and I think like 50,000 in North Carolina is equated to like 75,000 over in Coronado, which is like holy shit. I would need at very minimum a 25, no more than that even. Nearly like $30,000 raise, 20 to 30,000, just to be able to maintain standard of living. But don't really want to move to California just to maintain. So damn, you need like $100,000 a year just to fucking make ends meet and have kind of a good life in California. And I don't think that is worth just the better weather. So I'm complaining, but I think I can suffer through this hot little summer for the next few months. Biggest issue is our gym does not have AC. So when it gets 90 out, it gets to about 80, 85 degrees inside of our office, inside the gym. So that's the pain part, where I'm usually changing clothes 2 to 3 times a day because I've completely sweat through my clothes just sitting at my desk. It becomes a very big issue. But regardless, beautiful segue here. If you want your joints to feel better, if you want stronger joints, if you want your rotator cuff to get stronger, all those big old things, the key is not to do more stability movements. The key is to get more jacked. So at the end of the day, those tiny little muscles, like let's just keep on that rotator cuff example. The rotator cuff is not meant to be a quote-unquote prime mover. Prime mover isn't really a thing, but we're just going to use that term because it kind of fits. The rotator cuff is not meant to be the main muscle. It is small, and it is a rotator group for a reason. Your rotator cuff really should not play a huge role in any of your movements besides just simply helping your arm to rotate and then maintaining stability during that rotation. So keeping your shoulder from flying out of socket as you're doing a bunch of shit. Now, if you are drastically undertrained and none of your muscles are big around that area, well, your rotator cuff is going to have a lot more work that it has to do in order to keep that shoulder joint safe and in socket. So instead of strengthening that rotator cuff and just throwing more into that chaos that's already there of those big muscles are weak, your delts are weak, all that shit, let's just hone in on that rotator cuff to make you better. Instead, all we've got to do is just strengthen and build the muscles surrounding that area. So if you got a shitty ass rotator cuff, you're going to be much better off getting bigger, stronger deltoids, getting bigger, stronger pecs, getting bigger, stronger upper back muscles, getting bigger, stronger lats. All of these giant muscles that link in to that same shoulder joint. We have all these different muscles, like I have no idea what the number is. At least I'd say like 15 to 20, probably closer to that, like 15-ish, I'm guessing. Muscles that actually attach to the shoulder joint itself, one of the 3 shoulder joints. That is a lot of fucking muscles. So there's such a hyperfixation around, oh, the rotator cuff, the rotator cuff. This is how you get more stability, strengthen your rotator cuff. Your rotator cuff should not be the bread and fucking butter. Your rotator cuff is there as a last resort. Looking at how small those muscles are, they should not be the main thing causing that rotation or causing the stability of the joint. The delts play a role in rotation. The pecs play a role in rotation. The lats, the back, all play a role in rotation. And they have a much longer surface area. They're much larger muscles, so they can exert a much higher force. The bigger a muscle is, the higher potential of force application that it has. So if we have just super shitty rotator cuffs and super small ass muscles surrounding that joint, if we simply just get bigger delts, bigger chest, bigger back musculature, upper and lower, we can then have muscles in there that have the ability to exert a lot more force, therefore provide a lot more stability to the joints. The rotator cuff, again, is a last resort. If you are having to rely on your rotator cuff to save your lifts or to do your pitch, serve a volleyball, that's not ideal, and you are then just asking for a potential injury possibly down the line. Because again, your rotator cuff is not meant in any regard to do that. It is meant to just add a little bit more stability to the joint, keep everything in place. You got those big muscles for a reason. A larger muscle has a higher potential of force, application, and absorption. So, really short, like honestly I've gotten to my point already in like 4 minutes. If we can just do a shit ton more hypertrophy around these big like red flag joints, like our hip and our shoulder and our knee, are kind of like these red flag joints for a weightlifter, where at some point during your career you are going to have a shoulder or a knee or a hip or maybe all of the above that are achy at some point. Rather than doing just more mobility around that, rather than doing these small little very low stimulus exercises around that, like fucking band kickouts or whatever, doing a bunch of shit that just really doesn't matter, isn't going to do a whole lot. So if we can spend more of that time doing hypertrophy, so building up that muscle around the area, you're gonna have a more stable shoulder joint that actually uses the muscle it's supposed to, rather than using these last resort muscles. So the whole premise here is, if your joints are stiff, achy, and they suck at stability, go do some bodybuilding and just get more fucking jacked.